I'm looking at the iTunes list of the albums and the singles, and just kind of, you might say, reminiscing, because I don't follow these all the time. With music, especially instrumental music, it doesn't have lyrics. Unlike, let's say, books or anything that involves the written word, for me anyway, sometimes you don't really realize what you were feeling until later. I have had the experiences, I'm sure others have, where you hear something you did years ago or whatever, and you say, yeah, now I get this. And as a teacher, I talk a lot about this because I try to get my students, as I do with myself, to have some kind of a concept before you write anything. And again, with instrumental, that can be hard, but I will suggest to students, it could be a picture, could be this, could be that, and it can change, as you're writing it, but at least try to have a concept of what you're doing. Now, in my life, and I tell my students the same, as somebody who also does work for hire, where I'm hired to do writing assignments, that's a little bit of a different matter. It doesn't mean you can't bring your personality into it, but it is different because you're serving somebody else's vision. You're dressing up their baby, if you will. So it's a little different than, let's say, the artist approach where it's yours and so forth. But some of these songs, just looking at the list here, I will start with Moonlit. That's a fairly recent song. It's one of those songs kind of like By Myself that came very fast. It was almost a one-sitting type song where I literally picked up a guitar. Can't remember exactly why, this, that, and the other, but I picked up and this chord kind of led to this chord, etc., which led to this, led to going, I think I have a song here, which led to orchestrating it, which has since led to a big band version of it, and you name it. The title, I don't even remember why I chose that title. I did choose the title. I think it's just because when I think of a lot of that Jobim, Brazilian-oriented music, I tend to see the moon over the ocean, which I've always liked, just that visual of the moon over the ocean. So that's the best I can say on the title of that. I do think the title fits. And in fact, when we were looking for artwork for the album, I went and found some photos of the moon over Rio de Janeiro with the ocean and different things. So that one fit, I think, really well. I'm going to grab Rejoice. That was a song I had started in California before I moved to Arizona and met my wife, Denise. And it's kind of stylistically somewhat Celtic, somewhat classical in nature. In many ways, musically, fairly uncomplicated piece. Very tonal, very triadic chords. And but I'm kind of smiling. I'll explain this story because, as I think I said in a prior session, videotaping here, when you do this for your job, sometimes you forget the impact music can have on people. You start listening analytically and perhaps less emotionally or from a picture point of view, whatever. And so it doesn't mean you don't have your heart in the music and your spirit and so forth. It just means it's your job, if you will. So you want to make sure things are constructed right and done right. But I remember one time picking Denise up from her work in Arizona. She worked at an office in Scottsdale, a dental office. And she had said that they had a patient that day who had had cancer. I can't remember if the woman still had it or recovered, but they were actually playing my albums in the office for the patients while they had dental work done. And this lady had come to Denise and said, "Oh, that's your husband's music?" And Denise said, "Yes." She said, "Well, I feel when I listen to that music, and I think she was talking specifically about Rejoice. She said, I feel that there's a heaven. And so Denise told me this story when we were driving back home after I picked her up. And part of me hates to admit this, but another part of me would rather be honest. I kind of had this, well, yeah, not meaning to be unsympathetic to her condition by any means, but just, yeah. And Denise just kind of laid into me in a loving but very stern way and said something like, you just don't realize what you do and the impact it can have on people. And that was the start of, now many years later, of me re-examining what I do and why I do it. And there's certainly this side of, okay, I do it because it's my job, I do it for that reason, this, that, and the other, like everybody else has a job and has bills to pay. But it really did start me on, call it a more spiritual rethinking of what music is and what it does for listeners, the therapy behind music, and I started re-examining the concept of gifting and talent, and quite frankly, what comes from God. I mean, we use terms like inspiration when we do creative work. What is inspiration? We all kind of go, yeah, inspiration, but it's that part that really, I think any creative person looks back on and says, I didn't do that. Now, I know in my music, I know I did things. My hand went to paper, or my hand went on the mouse that went to computer or on the guitar, whatever. But there are those things in any, what I believe is any effective piece of music that you kind of say, I don't feel like I did that. And that's not just being humble, that's really the truth. I don't feel like all of that's me, and I will credit God for that, the God of my choice, that just kind of supplies that. I mean, I've had many moments of, call it inspiration, that I just don't, I have the training, and I look at it like, God gives you so much in the area of gifting, but he also expects you to get off your duff and go get some skills. That's my attitude in everything I do, especially as a teacher. The album I did called Soundscape, South California, was a work for hire album, let's call it. A label had come to me. They had put out an album of my other music, and they came to me and said, hey, we have a concept. But it was kind of a slim budget, frankly, and I said, fine, I'll do it nonetheless. And I did, and it includes a number of songs on there. There's 10, and which includes Dana Point Sunset, Road to Julian, Last Snowfall for Big Bear. Road to Julian is mine, and Last Snowfall for Big Bear is mine. When I talk about the actual song, Dana Point Sunset was somebody else. They had actually a couple of their writers. I'm trying to think if there's any others, but no, those three. So Dana Point Sunset, actually they had picked the title of that because these are all places in Southern California. Dana Point is in Orange County, very familiar with it. And so it's a kind of a overall just contemporary towards smooth jazz kind of a collection, easy listening kind of a collection. They wanted it to fit theirs and many others' concept of Southern California. I'm snickering because I lived there most of my life, and I don't know if it's as laid back as some people think. But anyway, it also includes Road to Julian. Julian is a little town in San Diego mountains, if you will, east of San Diego City. There's a group of mountains with a number of towns. That one is a little more towards a folk kind of style. Last Snowfall for Big Bear, again, their title, based on, these are all places in Southern California. Big Bear is up in the San Bernardino Mountains. I've been there many times and I can't remember right now. Place that a lot of people go. I had that song done, and I believe fully recorded, as I did with Road to Julian, and then they picked it up. As I may have mentioned on prior videotapings, I am very meticulous about, if I do not practice X amount of time daily, I don't like to just play, and some people may be different. And in some ways, I'm most brutal on myself as a guitarist, even though I love writing. This is the thing I started on. So it goes back many years, and I have high expectations of when I play and playing well. So I miss playing more. I love the simplicity of the guitar. You pick it up, go in another room. You don't need electronics, don't need nothing, and make music. There is a real beauty in that, especially acoustic guitars. So perhaps another guitar album, be it a best of or something else, will be forthcoming here.